one of the essential things that is really required in a shadow section, that is drop shadow for text. And in this lesson we are going to add a reverse drop shadow in text with distort transform effect. When you will work in Adobe Photoshop, sometimes you may have to apply the drop shadow for text, and we are going to learn this entire process. In last lesson, we learned how to add reverse shadow effect for image, but in this lesson, we are going to learn to add drop shadow for text, and the process of adding drop shadow in image and text are totally different. So you can take a look. This is an image from our exercise file, and I'm going to show you the final output. Okay, this is the text in the road, and we have to add a reverse drop shadow over here. So let me turn on this another layer, and you can take a look. We have the reverse drop shadow for this text with distort transform effect, and we are going to do this in this tutorial. So let's take a look how you will add a reverse drop shadow effect with distort transform in Adobe Photoshop. So at first we have to open our exercise file. So here is the file menu, and here is the open option. Inside the shadow folder, you will get this text distort shadow effect image, and you just have to select it, and then you have to click open. Okay, this is an image of road, and we are going to place a text over here, and then we will apply the reverse shadow effect. Okay, so let's start the process. Right now we have to duplicate the background layer, and to duplicate the background layer you just have to right click with your mouse, and then you will get this duplicate layer option. And let me write a name, shadow, for my new layer, and you can take a look. We have the new shadow layer available inside our layer panel. So right now we have to go for a type tool to type the text. So let's use the type tool. So here is the type tool, and I'm using the ethnocentric font, and you can use any font from your computer, and I'm using the white color for my font. Okay, one thing I want to tell you before, if you using this image from the exercise file, then you have to increase the font size. Right now I'm using 72 point, and it's the maximum point inside the range, but this 72 point will be not sufficient for the text size because the resolution of this image is higher. So let me show you. Let me write my name here. I'm going to write Coel. Okay, with the 72 point, I have only the small size of text over here. That's why I want to increase. So let's select the text, and you have to go for minimum 1000 point. So let me go for 1000 point. And right now I have the bigger font, so you can imagine the resolution of the main image is really higher. Okay, so right now we have the text, and to commit the action you have to press Ctrl or Command Enter from your keyboard, or you can just click on this tick mark. Okay, so we have the text in here, and right now we want to add a stroke and the drop shadow. So let's place this text properly, and to that we have to press Ctrl or Command T for scaling. Okay, I want to place it over here. Okay, cool. So right now we have to add a stroke for the thin border inside the text, and you know how to add a stroke. You just have to right click the text layer, and then you will get this blending option. So this is the pop-up for layer style, and we are going to add a stroke. So here is the stroke option. We have to click over here, and this is the settings, and you know how to add a stroke. We just have to increase the size, and I told you before we will use the black color for stroke. Okay, 24 pixels seems good, and let me click OK. So we have a nice stroke for our text, and right now we are going to add the drop shadow. To add a drop shadow, we have to go for this FX option, or you can just use the blending option as we added the stroke. So I'm going for the FX option, and here is the drop shadow option. So let me click over here. So this is the pop-up for the drop shadow, and we have to increase the distance, spread, and size. So let's start the process. So I want to increase the distance for 30 pixel. I want to increase the spread, but still the drop shadow is not visible because we have 0 pixel for size, and when we will increase the size, the drop shadow will be visible. And you can take a look, we have the nice drop shadow over here. Okay, so I want to go for 70 pixel, and for spread I want to go for 35%, and for distance I want to go for 35 pixel. And you can take a look, we have a nice drop shadow, and I want to place the angle for 90 degree. So let me put the 90 degree, and right now we have the perfect drop shadow for our text. Okay, so you can use the same value which I used in here, or you can use your own choice. Okay, so let me click OK. Cool, we have the perfect drop shadow over here. So let's compare it's really added or not. Let me turn off the drop shadow layer. It's gone. It's on. Okay, so we have the drop shadow in our text, and right now we are going to reverse it, and we are going to apply the distort transform effect on the reverse drop shadow. So let's do that. So right now we have to separate the drop shadow from the text as well as stroke also. Once we will separate the drop shadow from the text, then we will reverse it and we will apply the distort transform effect. So let's start the separation process. To separate the drop shadow, you just have to right click with your mouse on drop shadow layer, then you will get this create layers option. So you just have to click on this create layers option, and you just have to click OK. And you can take a look, the layers are separated from the text layer. We have the separate drop shadow layer, we have the separate stroke layer. So let me turn off the drop shadow layer. You can take a look, here is the drop shadow turned off, and right now we have the drop shadow back as well as the stroke layer also. I just turned it off and the stroke is gone. Okay, it's back. So right now we have to select the drop shadow layer, and we have to scale the drop shadow layer. So let's scale it, and to scale you just have to press Ctrl or Command T from your keyboard, or you just have to click the edit menu, transform option, and here is the scale option. Okay, let's separate the drop shadow from the text. Okay, cool, you can take a look, we have separated drop shadow right now, and this is our drop shadow, and I want to flip vertical this drop shadow. So let's change the direction, and therefore we have to go for edit menu, transform option, and here is the flip vertical option. So let me click over here, and you can take a look, we have the vertical mode for our text, and right now we have the reverse drop shadow in here, and right now we are going to apply the distort effect. So what is distort in Adobe Photoshop? Actually, distort transform stretches an item in all direction. So we want to stretch the K alphabet or L alphabet, we want to make it bigger, and we want to place them in left or right side, and that's why we need the distort transform effect. Before using the distort transform effect, please make sure this drop shadow layer is selected, and then you have to go for edit menu, transform option, and from there you will get this distort transform option. So let me select this distort transform option. Cool, we have the pointer, and right now we want to make this K bigger and we want to pull it in left side as well as L also. We want to make it bigger, and I want to pull in right side, and let's make the adjustment with the K and L. Okay, cool. You can take a look. We have a nice distort transform effect of reverse shadow over here, and it's done. So right now you can press enter button from your keyboard for commit the action, or you can just have to click on this tick mark. Okay, cool. But it's not really looks like a drop shadow because we have the 100% opacity. So to bring the actual shadow effect, you have to reduce the opacity, and here is the opacity option. Let's reduce the opacity. Okay, 45%, really good. And you can take a look, we have a really nice drop shadow for our text as well, and we have the distort transform effect in drop shadow. So this is the simple process for adding the drop shadow in text, and then how to reverse the drop shadow, and finally how you will apply the distort transform effect on your drop shadow. So see you in next lesson.